My mother burst into my wedding venue and shouted, "Since I raised you, I deserve the first dance with your husband, not you." When I refused, she scoffed, "Then I'll just leave and never speak to you again." I smiled, handed her a cab fare, and said, "Perfect, because I already told security to escort you out." Weddings are supposed to be joyful occasions, a celebration of love and unity. But sometimes family dynamics can turn even the happiest moments into unforgettable dramas. This is the story of how my mother tried to hijack my wedding day and how I stood my ground. Growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, my relationship with my mother, Margaret, was always complicated. She had a strong personality, often overshadowing those around her. My father passed away when I was young, leaving her to raise me alone. While I appreciated her sacrifices, her controlling nature often led to conflicts, especially as I grew older and sought independence. During my college years at the College of Charleston, I met James. He was kind, patient, and understood me in ways few people did. Our relationship blossomed, and after 5 years of dating, he proposed. I was overjoyed and couldn't wait to share the news with my mother, hoping she would be happy for me. From the moment I announced our engagement, my mother inserted herself into every aspect of the wedding planning. She had opinions on everything: the venue, the guest list, the flowers. While I valued her input, it quickly became overwhelming. I wanted a simple, intimate ceremony at a historic venue in downtown Charleston, but she envisioned a grand affair. Compromises were made, but tensions simmered beneath the surface. As we finalized the reception details, the topic of the first dance arose. James and I had chosen a song that was meaningful to us and looked forward to sharing that moment together. Traditionally, the bride dances with her father and the groom with his mother, but given my father's passing, I hadn't planned a father-daughter dance. One evening, during a discussion about the reception timeline, my mother made an unexpected demand. "Since I raised you," she said, "I deserve the first dance with James, not you." I was taken aback. "Mom, the first dance is between the bride and groom. It's a special moment for us." She scoffed, "After all I've done for you, I think I've earned this. If you refuse, maybe I shouldn't come to the wedding at all." Her words stung. I couldn't believe she was willing to jeopardize our relationship over this. But I also knew I couldn't give in to her manipulation. Taking a deep breath, I replied, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but James and I have made our decision. I hope you'll be there to support us." She stood up abruptly. "Then I'll just leave and never speak to you again." I felt a mix of sadness and relief. Handing her some cash for a cab, I said, "Perfect, because I've already informed security to escort you out if necessary." She stared at me, searching for any sign of wavering. When she found none, she grabbed the money and left. Despite the drama, our wedding day arrived, filled with love and joy. Surrounded by friends and family who truly supported us, James and I shared our first dance without interruption. It was everything I'd hoped for. In the weeks that followed, my mother reached out, attempting to mend our relationship. While I was open to reconciliation, I made it clear that boundaries were necessary. Our relationship remains a work in progress, but I'm proud that I stood up for myself and didn't let her overshadow one of the most important days of my life. Family dynamics can be challenging, especially during significant life events. While it's important to honor and respect our loved ones, it's equally crucial to stand firm in our decisions and ensure our happiness isn't compromised. After all, weddings celebrate the union of two people, and that should remain the focus. Things didn't calm down after the wedding. I wish I could say that after the whole cab fare moment, my mom had an epiphany and realized she'd crossed a line. But no, what happened instead was way worse than I imagined. A week after the wedding, I started getting strange calls from vendors, our florist, the venue, even the caterer. One by one, they called to confirm cancellations. At first, I thought it was just a mix-up. Then the photographer emailed me saying, "Hi, sorry to hear you're not moving forward with the album edits after all. If this changes, let me know." I stared at the email, heart racing. I hadn't canceled anything. Turns out, my mother had. She somehow got into my wedding email account. I'd shared the password with her months ago, back when I was still naive enough to think she'd just help out and not completely take over. She used it to impersonate me, cancel orders, and even sent a few nasty emails pretending to be me, emails telling vendors their work was subpar and that I was going with other companies. It was pure sabotage. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She sat at her kitchen table, sipping tea like it was a normal Thursday. I asked her, point blank, "Did you cancel everything behind my back?" She looked me in the eye and said, "You humiliated me in front of everyone. This is what you deserve. Actions have consequences." I was speechless. I wasn't expecting an apology, but the cold, calculated way she said it shook me. James was livid. He wanted to file a police report for fraud and impersonation. But I stopped him. I didn't want things to escalate legally yet. I needed time to think. Instead, I reached out to all the vendors, explained what had happened, and thankfully, most were understanding. Some charged me rebooking fees. Some couldn't undo the damage. My wedding album was gone for good. The photographer had already deleted the raw files. As if that wasn't enough, she went on Facebook and posted a long, dramatic essay. It started with, "My daughter broke my heart. After raising her alone, she cast me aside like garbage. She even had me escorted out of her wedding like a criminal." The post had hundreds of likes and comments. Her friends, her church group, distant cousins, they all chimed in to support her. "You deserve better. What kind of daughter does that? She should be ashamed." I didn't comment. I didn't explain. I knew it wouldn't change anything. But the worst part? She'd printed the post and mailed it to my office. Yes, mailed it. On paper. With a handwritten note at the bottom. "This is who you are now." I didn't cry. I think I'd cried out all the tears years ago. What I felt now was something deeper. Cold, sharp. A kind of grief that doesn't come from death, but from finally accepting that someone you love might never love you back the way you need. And then, this is when things got real weird. I started getting messages from my estranged aunt. We hadn't talked in 10 years. She emailed me one morning with a simple subject line, "You need to know." What she told me unraveled everything I thought I knew about my mother. About my family. She said my mom had done this before. To her other sister, even to her own mother. She had a pattern. She'd insert herself into people's lives, manipulate, control, then destroy when she didn't get her way. She said my wedding wasn't the first time my mother had pulled something public and dramatic, it was just the latest. And I was her latest victim. My aunt attached copies of old emails, handwritten letters, and even a restraining order she'd filed years ago. Reading through them made my skin crawl. The handwriting was familiar. The tone, the phrasing, it was like déjà vu. And just like me, they'd all given her chance after chance, excuse after excuse, hoping she'd change. I called my aunt. We talked for 3 hours. I cried for the first time since the wedding. Not out of sadness, but relief. Relief that I wasn't crazy. That someone else had lived through it too. That's when I made the decision to go no contact. Not a dramatic announcement, not a letter, not a confrontation. Just silence. I blocked her number. Blocked her on Facebook. Took down the joint email account we used for wedding planning. Changed all my passwords. Warned my HR department. Even spoke to a lawyer about a cease and desist in case she escalates again. James supported me through every step. But something about all of this changed me. There's this feeling you get when the last piece of the puzzle clicks into place and you finally see the full picture for what it is. It's not always satisfying. Sometimes it's terrifying. But at least now, I'm not pretending anymore. I'm not holding out hope she'll become the mother I needed. And just when I thought I could start moving on, something else happened. Something that brought it all back. A letter showed up at our doorstep. No return address. Inside was a photo of me and James dancing at the wedding. Only, it wasn't taken by our photographer. It was from the parking lot. Someone had been watching us. The photo from the parking lot shook me. It wasn't just a bad shot taken from far away. It was angled, like the person had been hiding behind something, maybe a tree or a car. You could see me and James through one of the reception hall windows, mid-dance. The way it was framed, it felt intentional. Creepy. I didn't tell James right away. I told myself I didn't want to worry him, but the truth is, I was scared of what it might mean. The envelope was plain. No note. No return address. Just the photo. I called the venue to ask about security footage from that night. They hesitated at first, but after I explained there was a potential stalker situation, they agreed to let me look. I went in alone. James had a conference that day, and honestly, I didn't want to drag him into more drama unless I had to. The manager sat beside me as we scanned through hours of footage. Nothing for a while. Then, around 9:47 p.m., there she was. My mother. Standing outside the venue. In a black coat. Not the dress she wore to the ceremony. Not the heels. She had changed. She wasn't trying to get back in. She wasn't making a scene. She was just watching. Quiet. Still. Holding something in her hands. A camera. I stared at the screen, numb. The manager glanced at me, then quickly closed the laptop. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Do you want me to contact the authorities?" I shook my head. I couldn't even speak. When I got home, I locked the doors and windows, even though it was broad daylight. I put the photo in a drawer. For the rest of the evening, I walked around the apartment like I was being watched. I tried to act normal when James came home. We had dinner, watched a movie. I laughed at the right parts, nodded when he spoke, but I wasn't there. Later that night, I finally told him. I showed him the photo. Told him what I'd seen in the security footage. He didn't get angry. He got quiet. Then he stood up, walked to the bedroom, and brought back the wedding scrapbook we'd started putting together. He opened it to the last page. Another photo was there. One we hadn't printed. One I hadn't put there. It was a shot of my childhood home. The front porch. A faded welcome mat. A handwritten note tucked under the photo. This is where you lost yourself. I couldn't breathe. I knew that porch. Knew the exact spot I used to sit when I'd wait for her to calm down after one of her episodes. The thought that she'd gone back there, taken a photo, printed it, and put it into our scrapbook like it was some twisted message, it made my stomach turn. James wanted to call the police right then. I stopped him again. I told him we needed a plan first. That we had to be smart. That if we reacted too quickly, she'd twist it again, make it seem like we were overreacting. But the truth is, I was afraid. I didn't know how far she was willing to go. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I checked the locks again. All secure. But on the hallway floor outside our apartment, there was a new envelope. No stamp. No address. Inside was a torn piece of my wedding dress. Just a small strip of fabric. But unmistakably mine. The part from the hem. I knew it because I'd tripped on it during the rehearsal dinner and we'd had to pin it up last minute. That piece had been cut off before the ceremony. It had been in my dressing room. In a sealed bag. I realized then she'd been inside the room. Before the wedding. While I was downstairs getting my makeup done. While everyone was distracted. I didn't go back to sleep that night. I sat on the couch until sunrise, the torn fabric in one hand, phone in the other, finally dialing the lawyer's number. That was the moment it stopped being about boundaries or damaged relationships. It had become something else entirely. I ended up forwarding everything, the photos, the dress fabric, even a printed copy of the wedding scrapbook page, to the lawyer. He called me the next morning and calmly said, "This is harassment. We can take this to court." But I wasn't ready for court. Not yet. First, I needed answers. Real ones. Not filtered through Facebook posts or passive-aggressive gifts dropped at my door. I needed to see her. Face to face. Just once. I needed to know why. So I called her. She picked up on the first ring, like she'd been waiting. "I need to talk," I said. "Just us. No games." There was a pause. "All right," she said. "Come to the house." When I walked up to that porch, the same one she'd photographed, I had this weird feeling like I was walking into a memory. Everything looked the same. Same wind chimes, same cracked tile by the step. But it didn't feel like home. She opened the door before I knocked. Her face looked older than I remembered. Tired, but not apologetic. I walked past her and sat down in the same chair I used to sit in when I was a teenager, crying after we fought. "I want you to stop," I said. "Whatever this is, sending stuff to my house, the photos, the fabric, just stop." She sat across from me, perfectly still. "I just wanted you to remember," she said. "Remember what? That you tried to ruin my wedding? That you canceled things, lied to vendors, stalked me from a parking lot?" Her mouth twitched. Not a smile, exactly. Something else. "I gave you everything," she said, her voice calm. Too calm. "I raised you alone. I sacrificed. I made sure you had what I never had. And then you threw me away like garbage. You let strangers dance with you. Hug you. But me? I get security guards. You made that choice," I snapped. "You demanded the first dance with my husband. You threatened to leave if you didn't get it. What did you think I'd do? Beg?" "I thought," she said, her voice rising now, "that you'd remember who made you. That you'd understand it wasn't about the dance. It was about respect." The silence that followed was heavy. She stared at me like she was waiting for me to break. Like I always did. But this time, I didn't. "You don't want respect," I said. "You want control. That's all it's ever been. Since I was a kid. And I let it happen for years. I let you run every part of my life. But not anymore." She stood up suddenly, knocking over a lamp. "You're ungrateful," she hissed. "You don't even know the full story." "Then tell me," I said. "Tell me the story." She paused, her breathing fast. "I didn't cancel the wedding stuff out of spite," she said. "I did it because I knew he'd leave you." "What?" "He looked at me," she said, shaking. "The night of the rehearsal dinner. He looked at me like he saw the real me. Like he understood." I stood up so fast my chair fell over. "You're telling me you sabotaged my wedding because you thought my husband was in love with you?" "I saw it," she said, tears now spilling from her eyes. "The way he smiled at me. The way he helped me into my seat. The way he touched my shoulder, that's called being polite," I cut in. "He wasn't in love with you. He was trying to be kind. To the woman who made his fiancé cry every other week." She broke down then. Full sobbing. Shaking. "I just didn't want to be alone," she said, collapsing into the couch. "Everyone leaves. Your father. My sisters. You. I thought, if I made you need me again," and just like that, the fury inside me cracked. Not because I forgave her. But because I saw her clearly for the first time, not as my terrifying mother, not as the woman who stalked my wedding, but as someone deeply broken. I'm not coming back, I said quietly. And if you try to contact me again, I will go to the police. This isn't just sad anymore. It's dangerous. I walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't close the door behind me. The aftermath was messy. She sent more letters. I didn't open them. She called James's office. His HR flagged the number. My lawyer finally filed a restraining order. And it stuck. Friends asked questions. Some thought I was being cruel. A few distant relatives reached out, saying things like, "She's just lonely." But the ones who mattered, the ones who had seen everything, they stood by me. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. There's no real victory in cutting off your mother. There's just survival. But over time, the noise faded. The calls stopped. The envelopes stopped coming. James and I went on our honeymoon 6 months late, just a weekend trip to Asheville, but it felt like a new start. I look at our wedding photos now and still feel a sting. There's a shadow on that day I'll never fully erase. But there's also something else, strength. Not pride, not even relief. Just a quiet understanding that I did what I had to do. Some people get mothers who heal. Who love without twisting the love into guilt. I didn't. And I'm done pretending she'll change. Sometimes, the hardest thing you'll ever do is walk away from someone who raised you. But sometimes, it's the only way to live.